The room was bright with blinking lights and strange machines. The air buzzed with energy as scientists watched a glowing portal at the center. This portal was new, never tested before at this distance. It was a window to another world. But no. One knew if it was safe. Rhynexa stood beside the portal, her heart beating fast. She was young but brave, chosen to be the first to travel through it. Her silver hair shone under the lights, and her eyes were wide with nervousness. She wore a simple suit that protected her from the cold on her home planet. But no one had thought about what might happen during the travel itself. The lead scientist spoke calmly. "Rhynexa, are you ready?" She nodded, trying to hide her fear. She stepped closer to the portal. The air around it shimmered. A soft hum filled the room. Growing louder and louder, suddenly, a bright flash filled the space. Rhynexa felt a strange pull, as if her body was being stretched and folded. Her mind spun with confusion. And then? Darkness. When she opened her eyes, the world was very different. No blinking machines, no scientists, no familiar voices. Instead, cold air hit her skin. And she realized she was lying on a hard floor. Her suit was gone, and she was completely naked. Panic rose inside her. She tried to stand, but felt weak and dizzy. Looking around, she saw strange walls covered with dirt and rust. It was an old bunker, a forgotten place. How had she come here? Where was she? Then, she heard footsteps, slow and careful. She froze, her eyes searching for the source. A man appeared in the dim light. Carrying a small flashlight, he looked surprised to see her, and so was she to see him. The man was tall and lean with dark hair and gentle eyes. He wore worn clothes and a jacket, and his hands were steady. Rhynexa quickly covered herself with her hands, feeling shame and fear. The man raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Hey," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." Rhynexa didn't understand his words, but felt his calm tone. She stayed still, watching him carefully. The man reached behind his back and took off his jacket. He walked closer and held it out to her. She hesitated, but took the jacket, wrapping it around her small body. The fabric was strange, but warm, and it gave her some comfort. The man smiled. "You're safe here," he said. Rhynexa wanted to believe him, but fear stayed in her heart. She looked down at her wrist and saw a small device flashing. It was the same device she had worn before. Traveling, she tapped it, hoping for a way home. But it only showed strange symbols and a red warning light. The man watched her, curious but respectful. He sat down nearby and pulled out a small pack of food. Without words, he offered it to her. Rhynex's stomach growled loudly, and she slowly accepted the food. She took a bite, then another, and felt a little stronger outside. The wind howled softly, and the old bunker creaked. Rhynexa looked out a small window and saw dark trees and strange stars. She realized she was far from home, on a planet she did not know, and this man was the only living thing near her. They sat in silence for a while. The man tried to speak too. Her in his language, she shook her head, unable to answer, but somehow, a small connection grew between them. Two strangers trapped by chance in a strange world. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed above. The floor trembled slightly, and dust fell from the ceiling. Rhynex's eyes widened with fear. The man stood up quickly and grabbed a small tool from his belt. He motioned for her to stay back from the shadows. A drone appeared. It was metal and cold, with bright red lights scanning the room. Rhynexa recognized it from her world. This was the hunter sent after her. Her heart pounded, and she clutched the jacket tightly. The man held the tool steady. Ready to fight or hide, the drone moved closer, searching for its target. Rhynexa wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The man whispered, "Stay calm. I will protect you." The drone's lights passed over them, but suddenly stopped at the edge of the room. It scanned again, then turned and left. Rhynexa let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The man smiled, relieved, and sat back down. She looked at him with new hope. Maybe this human was not just a stranger. Maybe he was her only chance to survive. And maybe, just maybe, he could help her find a way back home. But first, she had to trust him, and that was the hardest part. Rhynexa stayed quiet, her eyes never leaving the human who had given her clothes and food. She still felt strange, like she did not belong in this place or with this man. Her mind raced with questions she could not ask. Why was she here? What was this planet? And why did this human seem so kind when her own people wanted to find her? Eli watched her carefully, noticing how she held herself tight, as if afraid to fall apart. He did not know her language, but he understood fear and loneliness. He moved slowly, keeping his hands open to show no threat. He found an old blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders, hoping to ease her shivers. Rhynexa looked down at the strange fabric and then at the man's face. There was no anger, no hunger, only quiet kindness. Something inside her began to soften, a small crack in the armor of fear she had built. She tried to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. Outside, the wind blew cold, carrying sounds Rhynexa did not know. She missed the soft breeze of her home, the familiar stars above her head. She felt alone in a big, unknown world. But this man, with his gentle eyes, was the only light she had now. Eli found an old radio and fiddled with the buttons. Hoping to reach someone, static and broken words came through, but no clear voice. He showed Rhynexa the radio, and she shook her head. She understood this place was silent, just like the bunker they were in. Night fell, and the bunker grew colder. Rhynexa curled up beside Eli, feeling the warmth of the jacket and the strange comfort of his presence. Her small hand brushed his by accident, and she did not pull away. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel hope. Suddenly, a soft beep came from Rhynexa's wrist device. She looked at it with wide eyes. But the screen showed only broken symbols and a flashing red light. Eli leaned over to see, his brow furrowed. This device was her link to her world, but now it was broken. They both knew she could not go back easily. Fear returned to Rhynexa's face, but Eli gave a small smile. "We will find a way," he said simply, though she could not understand the words. The tone was clear. He would not leave her alone. Outside, shadows moved near the bunker's entrance. Rhynexa stiffened, knowing danger was close. Eli stood, ready to protect. Together, they prepared for whatever would come next. To strangers, bound by fate and a broken portal, the silence in the bunker was broken by a distant rumble. Rhynexa's heart beat faster as the sound grew louder. Echoing through the cold walls, Eli moved quickly, grabbing a worn flashlight and motioning for Rhynexa to follow him deeper inside. She hesitated, but trusted him enough to move, her steps light and cautious. Above them, metal groaned and dust fell from the ceiling. Rhynexa pressed herself against the wall, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her mind raced with fear. Who or what was coming? She whispered a word from her own language, a warning she hoped Eli might understand. The drone appeared again, its red eyes scanning the bunker. Eli's grip tightened on the tool in his hand, ready to fight if needed, but the drone's cold. Sensors passed over them without stopping. For now, the threat had passed. But Rhynexa knew it would not be gone for long. She knelt down and traced strange symbols in the dirt with her fingers. She tried to explain to Eli that this was a hunt-on, order to find her and anyone who helped her. Eli nodded slowly, understanding that their time was limited. They could not stay hidden forever. Suddenly, Rhynexa's wrist device flashed and emitted a broken message. Words in her language appeared. Retrieve the subject, terminate all witnesses. Eli's eyes darkened with worry. He looked at Rhynexa and said firmly, We need to move, now." Together, they searched the bunker for another way out. The old walls seemed to close in around them. But hope burned bright in their hearts. Rhynexa felt a strange strength rising inside her. She was no longer just a lost travelish, she was a fighter, ready to face whatever came next. Darkness settled deeper in the bunker as Rhynexa and Eli moved quietly through narrow corridors. The air was thick with dust and old secrets. Rhynexa's mind struggled to understand this strange human who risked so much to help her in her world. Kindness was rare and often came with a price. She watched Eli carefully. His calm steps and gentle gestures, was this kindness real or a trap? Her past made her doubt everything, but the warmth in his eyes told a different story. One she did not want to ignore. Eli noticed her hesitation and stopped. He spoke softly, telling her a story of when he was alone and scared, a time when someone showed him kindness without asking for anything back. His words were simple but true, and Rhynexa felt something shift inside her. Suddenly, a low vibration shook the floor. Rhynexa's wrist device blinked urgently. They were running out of time. Eli took her hand firmly and said, "We stick together for the first time." Rhynexa nodded without fear. She stepped closer to Eli, trusting him more than she ever had. Together, they prepared for the danger waiting outside. Two strangers bound by hope and the need to survive. The small device on Rhynexa's wrist began to glow and pulse with urgent red light. A broken message flickered across the screen, clear enough to send chills down Eli's spine. "Retrieve the subject, terminate all witnesses," it said. The words were a death sentence. Not just for Rhynexa, but now for Eli too. Rhynexa's eyes filled with fear and guilt. She whispered, "They will kill you because of me." Eli shook, his head slowly, his voice steady. "Then we won't let them find us." Determination burned in his eyes as he started searching for a way out. They moved quickly through the winding tunnels of the bunker. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made their hearts race. Rhynexa held tightly to Eli's hand. Drawing strength from his calm presence, she was no longer alone in this strange world. Suddenly, they heard footsteps echoing in the distance. The hunters were close, and time was running out. Eli found a hidden door behind a pile of debris. He pushed it open, revealing a narrow tunnel barely big enough for two. Without hesitation, they slipped. Inside, the cold air biting at their skin, Rhynexa looked back once, fear and hope mixing in her gaze. Then she turned forward, ready to fight for the chance to live another day. Together, they vanished into the darkness, chasing freedom and survival. The tunnel was narrow and cold, the air thick with silence and the scent of earth. Rhynexa shivered beneath the thin jacket Eli had given her. Her teeth chattered softly as she leaned closer, seeking warmth from the stranger beside her. Eli noticed and pulled his jacket tighter around them both, offering what little heat he had. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, but for now, survival meant staying quiet and moving slow. Rhynexa's eyes met Eli's in the dim light, a silent understanding passing between them. The words were scarce, their bond grew stronger in the darkness. Fear gave way to trust, and trust to something deeper. A soft sigh escaped Rhynexa's lips as she rested her head against Eli's shoulder. He didn't pull away. Instead, he wrapped an arm around her gently. For a moment, the harsh world outside seemed to fade, replaced by this fragile warmth. But then, a sudden sound shattered the calm, a distant crash. The danger was closing in faster than they thought. Eli's grip tightened, and Rhynexa's heart pounded. They had to keep moving, or everything they fought for would be lost. Together, they rose and stepped forward into the unknown, two souls bound by hope, facing the darkness side by side. The tunnel opened into a small clearing bathed in pale moonlight. Rhynexa and Eli paused, catching their breath after the long escape. The night was quiet, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on their minds. Rhynexa looked toward the stars, her heart heavy with fear and hope. She knew the hunters were close behind, and the choice before her was clear: to run alone and live, or to face them together. Eli took her hand gently and said, "We don't leave anyone behind." His voice was steady, full of promise for the first time. Rhynexa felt the strength to stand tall, not as a frightened girl, lost in an alien world, but as a fighter who would not give up. They moved forward together, shadows stretching behind them. Every step was a battle against fear, against the unknown, but they no longer walked as strangers. They walked as allies, friends, something more. As the sounds of pursuit grew louder, Rhynexa stopped and turned. She faced the danger head-on, ready to protect Eli and herself, but Eli shook his head, gripping her hand tight. "We face this together," he said firmly. Side by side, they stepped into the dark, ready for whatever came next, bound by courage, trust, and a hope that even the deepest shadows could not erase.